When the young woman, the mother of this child, stood fully revealed before the crowd, it seemed to be her first impulse to clasp the infant closely to her bosom, not so much by an impulse of motherly affection, as that she might thereby conceal a certain token which was wrought or fastened into her dress. In a moment, however, wisely judging that one token of her shame would but poorly serve to hide another, she took the baby on her arm, and, with a burning blush, and yet a haughty smile, and a glance that would not be abashed, looked around at her townspeople and neighbors. On the breast of her gown, in fine red cloth, surrounded with an elaborate embroidery and fantastic flourishes of gold thread, appeared the letter A. It was so artistically done, and with so much fertility and gorgeous luxuriance of fancy, that it had all the effect of a last and fitting decoration to the apparel which she wore, and which was of a splendor in accordance with the taste of the age, but greatly beyond what was allowed by the sumptuary regulations of the colony. That, my friends, is from this book, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Welcome, my friends, welcome to the very chilly Rustic Vaughan Lodge and your Sunday Penguin. It's your Sunday Penguin of the day, and it's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. So, we're going to be talking about a mother today. I decided to choose something appropriate. Yes, it's the video everybody's been waiting for. It's The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And I have this cool Penguin English Library edition. Penguin makes, of course, a regular black spine classic of this. And every reprint house has an edition of The Scarlet Letter. But I like this one with the little A's on it. I thought it was pretty. So anyway, we're going to talk about The Scarlet Letter today. The Scarlet Letter about Hester Prynne, who up and gets herself pregnant back in the days of a Puritan colony. She lives in a Puritan colony in the olden days in America. A Puritan colony, the kind of society that the Republicans in America want to bring back. They'd be putting scarlet letters on everybody if they could, and they probably will eventually. But yes, back in the days of the Puritans, Hester Prynne gets herself pregnant. Now, she's married, but nobody knows where her husband is. He's taken forever to get to the colony. We don't know where he is. So, her husband's been gone for like ever. And Hester Prynne, as you know, people do, got herself pregnant. But heaven forbid she should get herself pregnant when she's not married, obviously, to whoever got her pregnant. So as soon as it becomes obvious that she's pregnant, she's dragged off to jail where she has a baby, and they decide to put a big scarlet letter on her gown that she has to wear all the time so everybody knows that she's an adulteress. Oh no, she's an adulteress. And so then, of course, in the beginning of this book, they drag her out and display her in front of everybody. Look, everybody, look at the adulteress. Oh, the shame. So this book is in a large part about shame and stigmatizing and how you can rise above such nonsense, which Hester Prynne does. Now, Hester Prynne, the mother, she's not telling who the father is, by the way. She's keeping that a secret. It becomes painfully obvious really quick who the father is. And so it doesn't remain a mystery for long. I won't tell you, though, because I don't like to give spoilers too much in the review. I'll give a couple here at the beginning, but only from the beginning of the story. In the beginning of the story, when she's dragged out in front of the whole town and displayed, she's out there and she looks and she sees, who should she see? Her husband. What's he doing here? So her husband had a hell of a time getting to this colony. On the way, he was captured by some Native Americans and held a prisoner. And he was there with the Native Americans forever. And he finally gets away. And when he finally shows up at the colony, what's the first thing he sees? There's his wife standing up there in front of everybody with a Scarlet Letter on her chest. Oh man, I miss some stuff, this guy thinks. So he's like, don't you say nothing when she sees him. So he goes and sees her later, and he's like, you know what? Fine, you got yourself pregnant. Fine. Don't you tell anybody who I am. I'm Dr. Chillingworth now. I'm Dr. Chillingworth. So Chillingworth is like, you know what? Just keep it a secret, man, but I'm going to find out who knocked you up. I'm going to find out. If it's the last thing I do, man, I'm going to find out who that guy is. So that's this guy's whole mission, is to find out who this mysterious man is who she was with. And he finds out, by the way, eventually, as we do. And so this novel, it's a really interesting book. It's beautifully written, and it's a strong character study of Hester. Now Hester, she rises above the stigma and the shame of her Scarlet Letter pretty quickly. Or eventually, I should say. She rises above it eventually. Now, she is isolated from the townspeople. She has to go live on her own, away from the townspeople, in a cabin, which sounds, frankly, better. I wouldn't want to hang out with these townspeople myself. I would want my own isolated cabin, but, you know, she is. This is supposed to be some kind of... I mean, she's an outcast, basically. And so she raises her daughter, Pearl, away from the rest of the people. Fortunately for her, she's like really, really good at sewing. Like, she's a master at sewing. So she makes her living that way. She makes these fancy shirts and stuff for like the rich guys in the town. But because she's such an awesome person, she also makes clothing for the poor. And she spends a lot of time in this book helping people. So eventually, people really start to like Hester, even though she was an adulteress. They don't care. She's awesome, and so she moves beyond the stigma. This also tells the story of the guilt-ridden guy who got her pregnant. And so it tells that part of the story as well, which is an important part of the story. I mean, and it kind of shows what a waste that is, you know, being racked by guilt for doing something perfectly natural in this kind of unnatural society of the Puritans. And also with Chillingworth, it kind of talks about the story of obsession. This guy is obsessed. And even when he knows, you know, he should just let it go, he can't. He can't let it go. To his own detriment. So this book is about a lot of stuff. A big part of it is about motherhood with Pearl. And Pearl is a creepy little kid, by the way. This book does have shades of the supernatural in it. There could be some supernatural stuff going on in this book. Hawthorne's like that. Her precociousness seems almost of another world, little Pearl. She's an interesting character, but there's just something weird about her. She stands out from everybody. Kind of a cool kid, actually. I liked Pearl. Just kind of weird. And yeah, so this tells that story. And it's beautifully written. And it's actually, I thought it was a really entertaining book. It's not a long book. It's one of those books that I was supposed to read in high school, but of course I didn't. Why would I read the Scarlet Letter? That's lame, I thought. But I read it years later, and I loved it. And I still love it. I think it's just a wonderful book. But I'm a pretty big fan of Hawthorne, actually. This probably isn't the best thing he wrote. Probably the best things he wrote were his shorter works, a lot of his stories and sketches. You should get the Library of America volume of his stories and sketches, by the way, because that's awesome. So anyway, I'm off topic there for a second. Hawthorne is a fantastic writer. The only thing that doesn't really work in this book for me is the opening. There's the opening in the custom house where the guy who's writing this story finds a Scarlet A and what's the story, and he's going to find out the story. That whole part doesn't really have to be here. The whole introductory custom house part that a lot of people get to and they're like, oh man, this book's going to be boring as hell. You would think so if you just read that opening. I think that opening was a bit maybe self-indulgent and unnecessary. But once you get past that, the book's really good. So yeah, The Scarlet Letter, it's awesome, guys. You should read this book. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me for the Sunday Penguin. I probably might have something else up this afternoon because I missed a video yesterday because my work schedule is terrible. So yeah, Scarlet Letter. Read this book. It's awesome. It's one of my favorites. It's great. Scarlet Letter, guys. Okay. Happy Mother's Day again. I will catch you next time.